Your host, Danny O'Dwyer, and I'm delighted to be joined by Zach Wood from Sony Santa Monica. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
You are a senior producer on a Hohokum, which is a game that I believe is being developed by the guys at Honey Slug who are in London. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually a collaboration between Honey Slug and Richard Hogg, who's the art director, artist. Yeah,
excellent.
Kind of a unique collaboration.
This got revealed last year at E3.
Yep.
For folks who don't know much about this game, and to be honest, it is a type of game that is difficult to put across without having played it. What exactly is Hohokum?
Well, like you said, it's kind of a hard game to describe, which is why shows like this are awesome, because people can pick it up and play it and experience it. But I would say at its core, it's about exploration. I think what makes it unique is that it's a game that doesn't really tell you or hold your hand in terms of what you're supposed to do, but the worlds are very reactive to whatever you're doing, and so the game goals and activities sort of get revealed to the player over time.
So what I first fell in love with this game was that I knew that what your character's name is known as the Long Mover, which is a wonderful Mighty Boosh reference.
Exactly. That's
which
exactly
I'm not sure if that ever even aired over here in North America. But we're looking at the gameplay now. Can you just kind of try and explain to folks at home what's going on here?
Yeah. So, well, one thing to point out is that there are over 16 different worlds, and all the worlds are very different from one another. This is the forest plateau. So what he had just done was underneath the plateau, there's this lamb fruit tree, and the characters there are these gibbos. They sort of like monkey-looking creatures. Like to pick those up and pester other animals with it, right? So he went down there, pollinated the tree, and brought the gibbos up to the top, and now they're throwing it at the Barbaruza, which is the it's sort of a boss battle, a little bit, but in a very Hohokum way.
Yeah.
Because nothing in this game is stressful. You can't die. You can't really fail.
I've heard it being called the most relaxing game at E3. I believe.
We'll take that. We'll absolutely take that.
And what I like about it as well is obviously there are primary objectives in each level. There's also sort of secondary stuff that you don't necessarily need.
There's all kinds of stuff, and that's the thing. It's like, yes, every world has a thing, like a primary activity, but there's also like everything reacts to you in some way, shape, or form. And there's all kinds of secrets and hidden elements all over the game.
It seems like a game that's been created almost like an experience just to create discovery. Like it's a wonderful game to just sit down with, relax with for a while. And though it's challenging, but not in a sort of in a fast thumbs kind of way, just in a kind of a cognitive way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was definitely specifically designed to be non-stressful and non-traditional and a game that's just enjoyable and relaxing to play.
So you mentioned that there are different worlds as well.
Yeah.
How many different worlds are we looking at, and how long does each one sort of generally take?
I mean, it kind of depends on how the player wants to play, because it's really kind of up to them how they want to experience the game. It's also really non-linear, so all of these worlds are not gated by your progress. Like, you don't have to complete the space to move on to the next one. When you boot up the game for the first time, you can travel anywhere, do anything. It's very free-form in that way. So this is an example of a hallway space that connects other worlds together. So he's got 2 other spaces that he could travel to, but even these spaces are kind of interactive.
Yeah. How about it? I don't know if this sounds reductive or not, but it looks like a very Sony game. Like you guys have a lot of these very visually confident, striking, and like relaxing experiences. Is that sort of what the influence of the gentleman at Sony Santa Monica is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I also think we're really drawn to like boundary pushing, super creative, beautiful games. That's just kind of what drives us. And I think we're also trying to like kind of change the perception of what a video game is and can be, right? Because it's like people hear about what I do for a living and they're like, oh, you must work on shooters or something else. And it's like, no, there's all this other stuff and other games that have all kinds of different experiences, right? And so this is one of them, and it's just, we were drawn to this. This game showed, I think it was IGF back in 2010, the developer was showing it there. And we were just immediately drawn to it, like, oh my God, this is beautiful and amazing. And it's really just fun to kind of cruise around, So even though there are, goals and activities, like if you never figured any of that stuff out, it would still be a fun game.
Yeah, just to play around with.
Totally.
I've seen it shown at a bunch of, I think perhaps when it was before it was signed on actually, post IGF. I've seen it at a lot of trade shows, and it's one of these games that it's almost like just waiting for it to come out. We're actually quite close to it coming out now. It's
we are,
end of the summer.
We finally have a release date.
Yeah.
August 12th, and it's coming out for PS4, PS3, and PS Vita cross-buy.
Cool.
So you buy one, you get them all. And it supports cross-save, so you can save and resume on any platform.
Awesome. Adrian on Twitter is asking, he was actually asking, was it available for cross-buy?
Yes.
So I get it, He just jumped in there.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
taking my questions away from me.
The other interesting thing about this game is that we're collaborating with a record label, which is kind of a different thing. And, so Ghostly International, we're working with on the soundtrack, and so every track in every world is unique, and they're all artists on the Ghostly label. So it's artists like Taiko, Ben Benjamin, Shigeto, Mishna, which has been a really, really amazing experience. And we got there because when we first started talking to the team about what the music might sound like in the game, they shared their playlists. And it just so happened that a lot of the musicians they were listening to when they were coming up with ideas happened to be on the Ghostly label. So we're like, well, we should go talk to Ghostly.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and we've been working with them, and it's been awesome.
What I'm looking at this when I see it is it reminds me a lot of how I used to play Loco Roco, which was very much a, you could die, but it wasn't really much of a challenge, but it didn't negate from the experience. It was very much about sort of having fun with the world.
Absolutely.
So what's going on here? Because this actually looks completely different to what we were looking at before.
Completely different, right. Yeah, that's kind of a good example of how they all look and feel very different. So this is the Guano Factory.
Okay.
And so these characters here that's on the player's back are like harvesters. And so they're harvesting this liquid. Now they're being chased away. But they're harvesting this liquid that the drones are sort of dropping in the sky. And then they fill up their tanks, which are part of their bodies. And then you drop them off in this big, huge tank. And you need to fill it up with liquid. And that's kind of the primary thing that's going on here. You're basically trying to get the factory up and running again by helping the workers fill up the vat full of liquid.
This is all part of the rich narrative of Hohokum. Is there a wider universe that you're trying to allude to, or is it all very much this is our play set, just have fun?
Yeah, there isn't really like a story connecting the spaces together. They all kind of live on their own, and the player's free to experience them however he wants,
Very, very boring question to ask, and a bunch of folks in the chat have asked, so I might have to do it. Yeah. Is there any multiplayer? This seems to be like the type of game you would play on your own, right?
It's a very singular experience,
Martin Case has asked, how long are each level? Is each level?
I mean, it kind of varies depending on how you play. What we found is that it's actually a pretty long game. In recent playtests, we found that people in like a couple of hours we're only really completing about 3 or 4 spaces, and there's 16. So,
long enough.
You kind of do the math.
That's pretty good. Do you expect this is the type of game that people are going to play more on the PlayStation Vita, or do you feel like this is a game that folks are going to sit down in their couches and enjoy at home on a sitting room?
Hard to say. I mean, I like the home experience because the sound design and the music is amazing, and they've done a lot of stuff with 5.1. So if you've got a great sound system, like it'll make a big difference. But there's also input changes that we've done. So on the PS4 controller, on the touchpad, you can actually draw with the long mover. You just touch it and kind of draw around, and it records what you're doing. And he's doing it right there, and it'll just play back whatever it was that you drew.
Excellent.
It's just another way to be expressive, because the character itself is very expressive in the way that it moves around the world. The light bar changes with the color of the long mover. And also we're using the speakers to enhance some of the audio in the game.
Sony seemed to be very proactive about picking up indie games. I think as a PlayStation 4 owner, it's been very beneficial that in between Like I'm a fan of indie games as well, but like just in between those big tentpole releases, that there's a lot of stuff there to keep you occupied. Like I was playing Transistor 2 weeks ago, and it's probably the best game I played this year.
No, it's fantastic.
Is that I don't know what level you're at there. Is that part of your day to day? But is within the culture of Sony, is that very much a
I mean, I think you probably saw some of that at the press conference.
Yeah.
So Sony, as a whole, is really embracing indie development. Really creative, beautiful, different kind of boundary-pushing games. And I think, for Santa Monica Studio, we're kind of known for that. Games like Flower and Sound Shapes, which I worked on, The Unfinished Swan. I mean, these are the kinds of games that inspire us. So yeah, we just love them a lot. So this is kind of another one of those. Yeah.
And is the idea in recent months, I suppose, that like there has almost become this expectation that lots of these types of games become available for the PlayStation Vita. The fact that you guys are doing it on cross-buy as well just seems like it almost seems like it benefits the consumer so much that I don't know how it could benefit you guys. When you're doing that, is the onus on that to ensure that people are experiencing their PlayStation Vita, or is it that you think that people who own PlayStation 4s own Vitas, or that they might? Like what's the big reason behind having that system, and the fact that you guys have actually used it so frequently?
The PS Vita?
Yeah, the cross-buy specifically.
Well, I mean, I think the PS Vita is an amazing device, and I think it's also trying to continue to drive the message about how great of a piece of hardware it is.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But the other thing is it just makes sense. A lot of these games are easier to do cross-platform, and so we're going to do that. Whether it's extending the audience of people who may have PS Vita and maybe not have PS4, or the convenience factor of being able to, save your game on PS4 and pick it up and resume on Vita. That's a pretty awesome thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm so used to cross-buy and cross-save now that I get really bummed when it doesn't, when the game doesn't support it, right? It's just so cool. So it's all those things, I think, rolled into one. You know? And also just the Vita's screen is just gorgeous. And this game looks amazing on it.
Am I right in saying that this is also coming out on PlayStation 3 still?
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Because you guys have been involved. Did you pick this up? Was it last year? Your involvement with this, Sony's involvement with this, was it how long has that been the case?
About a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it always the case? Because there have been so many games that we knew were coming out on PlayStation 3 last year, and that they've all now appeared as. If not cross-buy, but at least coming out on PlayStation 4 and Vita.
It was always our plan
to have this set of games lined up.
Yeah.
So for the folks at home, lastly, Hohokum, when is it available?
August 12th.
And how much is it going to cost? And
we don't have a price yet. We haven't announced the price yet.
Cool. All
right.
right.
Coming soon.
Thank you very much. Zach Wood, absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and showing Hohokum.